Apple unveiled some major announcements, especially to the iPad, but were there any changes that were truly game-changing that you think will actually draw in new customers?
Yeah, I think the design improvements that they made overall were expected, but I think those are overall they're ultimately design improvements that are drawing consumers in these days, right? So most of this is focused around narrowing the bezels and then focusing on, removing the home button and getting to Face ID, which sort of plays really well into what they've been doing with the iPhone, which has obviously been successful. So I think those design features alone will draw consumers in. And overall, I think it was, a good evolutionary step, I should say, for the iPad lineup overall. I think there's some other things that are inside that have to do with software and so forth that were ultimately probably more important, but overall I think it was a decent announcement for them around iPad.
Right, David, iPad sales actually peaked in 2014 and the tablet industry has been contracting. Do you think these changes are enough to sort of regain that momentum Apple once had with the iPad?
Probably not, but that doesn't mean that it might not slow whatever decline they're experiencing, or at least flatten it out. Maybe it'll stabilize things. These are not earth-shaking changes. I do think Face ID is a pretty important technology. I have it on my new iPhone, and I find it enormously convenient to not have to do anything except pick the phone up and look at it, and basically you're on it. That would matter to me on an iPad, so I like that. But I don't think it's the right way to think about any of these announcements today as significant game changers in any way. I mean, if it was any other company than Apple, we wouldn't even be talking about it. These are not the kinds of products that generate the sort of excitement that the phones do. That's just a simple fact.
Right. Ryan, let's talk about price increases as well. The 11-inch model is up $150 from the version last year. The top of the line iPad Pro costs more than most full-feature laptops. Is this going to price some customers out of the market here?
Yeah, I think there's no question about that. To me, to me, I sort of take away more of like the ultimate strategy of what Apple's trying to do with their Mac lineup and iPad. And it seems to me like, with them releasing obviously the well-anticipated refresh of the MacBook Air with, I think, what a higher price point than the industry expected, I think sort of puts the emphasis on this as being the most attractive large screen product that Apple has to offer these days. So yes, the price point puts this as a very premium product, but then again, Apple isn't selling pretty much anything in the market that isn't premium, right? So they're driving up costs, but they're adding features, and ultimately, I don't think that will scare away buyers. But I think, as mentioned earlier on this call, I don't think this changes the tablet industry as a whole. It's worth noting that, when you break down the tablet industry, there's really two sections. There's one, what we call detachable tablets, which is the iPad Pro, the Surface, and so forth. And that segment of the tablet market has been growing despite the overall tablet market declining. So it's not a surprise that the focus was around iPad Pro. Adding the iPhone features makes sense. And I think they're looking to this to be probably a more productive device in terms of sales overall in the long run than probably the MacBook Air.
And lastly, David, this was the first major revamp of the MacBook Air in many years. I mean, what took the refresh so long?
Well, I think that they've been focusing on the iPhone because that's where the big money is, probably. But I just wanted to mention, Brian just mentioned the Surface. I think we have to give Microsoft credit. They have done a more revolutionary set of changes in the way they've sort of morphed the PC and the tablet into one device that basically serves as both. It's surprising to me that Apple hasn't done that, and that we don't really see a device that is effectively a touchscreen laptop, which I think I and many millions of users of Mac products would like to have. So in that sense, I would call an announcement like today's a disappointment.